Hey there, Balanced Lady Bosses. This is Stacy, and I can't tell you how psyched, pumped, excited, nervous, a little girlish I am about today's interview. My guest today is Matt Boggs, and let me tell you guys, Matt holds an extremely special place in my heart. Some of you may recall that in past episodes, I have talked about having a man coach. Now, I don't mean a coach that's a man, okay? I'm talking about a coach that was helping me to access my authentic power and my authentic self, all the vulnerability and things wrapped up in that, with accessing the amazing love experience that I was desiring. And Matt is the person that helped me to create the pathway to this amazing relationship and a wonderful man that I now have in my life. And I feel really blessed and honored that he accepted my invitation to be a part of the Balanced Lady Boss show, because this is the single most popular area that I get asked questions about. How do I create and navigate an amazing love experience while being a boss in the boardroom? How is it affecting me being a boss in the boardroom if I'm not feeling fulfilled in this area? And how am I not accessing my bliss when I'm not feeling like I'm really embedded in a loving relationship that is all about my greatness and my self-worth? So Matt is going to solve all those problems today.
All of them.
One chat.
This time. Perfect.
Welcome,
no pressure.
Welcome, Matt. Thank you so much. And I'm just like, I can't tell you how happy I am that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Well, it's a privilege to be with the Balanced Boss Lady herself working it. Now, for those who don't know, anytime I do a lot of coaching. I know many of the people listening you read books and you take coaching programs, and maybe some of you are coaches, you're interested in growing yourself. And I really believe it's a special kind of a person who takes themselves on, who's willing to look at how life is reflecting back to them in the ways that it's working, and how life is reflecting back to them in the ways that they don't want, and in the ways that they need to grow. Ken Blanchard says feedback is the breakfast of champions. Mm. And so for those listening, your host, Stacy, is a one who has breakfast of champions every single morning, because this woman took herself on. She sent me a video that was so great at the end of the program. The program was all about, creating the relationship you want. And so she said, by the way, not only did I create the relationship that I wanted with this super sexy, handsome, total stud, but I also set a goal to write a book. And a lot of people say, and I'm working on the book and it's going to come out next year and this and that. No, not Stacy. Stacy goes, here's my book. And she holds it up and her book was done and she had written the thing. And so this is a woman of action. So you're talking about the Balanced Boss Lady herself. So I'm pleased to be here and wanting to serve you in any way I can, Stacy.
No, thank you so much, Matt. So let's start off first and foremost. I really do like to create the distinctions in the three areas that are our core focus areas here in the Balanced Lady Boss community of boardroom, bedroom, and bliss. And so one of the first things that I wanted to touch on with you is, when women, first of all, what kind of women typically sign up for your program? What does that profile look like? Because I think for a lot of my listeners, one of the questions was, well, what exactly do I do with a man coach, or what exactly do I do with a relationship coach? Like, what does that look like? And are other women like me, kind of doing this? It feels there's still, I think, some stigma around coaching and therapy. And then even further beyond that, this is your most intimate space. So I think that there may still be some stigma around being a boss. I'm a CEO, I'm a founder. I don't know how to approach getting support for this area of my life. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's very common that we will have areas of our life that we thrive in, areas that we're just naturally gifted. We rock, it might be the area of business, or you might just have no issues with health, for example. You eat well, you exercise, all that comes very easy to you. Or there might be Friendships are easy. There's certain areas where things are really easy, and then other areas where it's very normal if there's one or two areas in our life that we really struggle with. And those become the areas where we kind of make some progress, then we slide back. We make progress, we slide back. And it can be years or even decades of feeling longing, feeling discontent with a particular area. And so I serve people who that area is their love life, where it's been decades often that they haven't had a fulfilling, beautiful, romantic relationship. And so, like you said, a lot of times it's successful women because they're thriving in their workspace. And we will often then lean to the area that we're successful. And because it's easier there, it feels good there. We're getting kudos there. We're enjoying the success or the fruits of our labor there. And we'll slowly kind of drift away from the area or not want to spend as much time in the area that we're struggling, just because it's human nature to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So I serve women who are wanting to create that relationship, who've been struggling in that area. And what's interesting about what I love is that in today's era, never more than ever before, I should say, have people been open to the idea of having a coach, not just, for years it was the sporting industry. Okay, I need a coach because I need someone who can direct me when I can't see exactly what I'm doing. I'm in the game and I can't see the bigger perspective. And so a coach helps set strategy and show me how I might be engaging in that game of the sport in a way that's not serving me. Well, more than ever before, people realize, well, life is the same way.
Yes.
We can't see the picture when we're the one in the frame.
Yes.
And so I have a coach in my life. I can't coach myself. I can't see the picture. I'm the one in the frame. I need someone outside of me to help who has expertise, who has awareness that can help me see, oh, this is why I'm creating this result in my life and how I can shift it and move forward.
Oh, that's good. I can't see the picture when I'm the one inside of the frame. You know how many areas I can apply that? I can apply that to a conversation I just had, where I'm not seeing myself.
Right.
And I think even in the space of love and navigating how we're showing up, that's probably a significant part of the challenge, is not being able to see ourselves. Because one of the things that happened to me in taking your program, and I've been getting coached, right? I've been getting coached, taking different coaching programs for executive leadership, all kinds of things. But there were things I wasn't seeing about myself that I had more clarity on when I was in the program. So that's a really good point. I like that. Okay, now talk to me a little bit about some of the common challenges that women like myself face, or some of the common themes that you see come up in your program that women have challenges around.
That's a great question, because there are surface level symptoms and then there are deeper root causes. And so what ends up happening is that people will talk about the symptom. People will talk about, and here are the common challenges that people will talk about, but really these are just symptoms of something else going on. So one of the challenges is I can't find anyone I'm attracted to. Like, all the guys out there are lame. I get online, I get on these dating sites, or I swiping, and it's just like, it's just kill me now, because none of these guys are what I want. I'm not attracted to anybody. Another symptom is I only attract narcissists. Like, if a guy is good looking and successful, he's a narcissist. And he just talks about himself. He's totally selfish. Or I only attract guys who are unavailable. Either they're emotionally unavailable, they don't want to commit, or they're already married, that kind of a thing. So when those are symptomatic, actually, and anytime you find yourself attracting a scenario where you're not actually meeting someone that you could see yourself in an intimate relationship with, either because you're not attracted to them, or you are attracted to them and they're just not available because they are in another relationship, or they don't want a relationship, they're emotionally closed off. That is a protection mechanism at play. See, we do that. We actually construct that from the inside out. And we attract people who won't ever actually get into a relationship with us, or who we don't choose to protect ourselves from being hurt again. And when we get really honest with ourselves, we talk about, I think a lot of times why it's easier to have success in a career or spend time there is because I don't believe there's any pain more deep and painful than relationship pain.
Oh gosh.
No
So
pain that hurts worse than relationship pain.
yeah.
Losing someone that you love, right? Or being rejected or betrayed by someone that you love
Yeah.
is the deepest type of pain human beings can experience. And so when we're wired up to move away from pain and towards pleasure, we will construct mechanisms to keep us safe. So this happened for me. And I've told you this story, Stacy, where I wanted the love of my life. I was searching for years, and it was like no matter what I did, nothing was working. And I was doing all these surface level law of attraction stuff. I'd have my big list out. You know, I'm sure everyone listening, you've got a list. You know exactly what you want in a man. That is an important part. You do want a list. I had my list out, I had all the stuff. I was taking action, and I just was finding myself in the same. I just wasn't changing my results.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to figure out what was going on. And so I went to this week-long intensive retreat, and there were 100 people there, 50 women, 50 men. And halfway through this week-long experience, I'm sitting in a chair with a row of 50 men, and the facilitator is inviting us to play a game. And she goes, okay, you guys, we're going to play the island game. And here's how it works. Gentlemen, you're sitting in these chairs. You have a clipboard and a pen. Ladies, here's what you're going to do. I want you to walk down this line, and I want you to vote on every single man. And what you're going to vote is yes or no. And here's the question. If this was the last man on the planet to choose from, would you want him on a deserted island with you? Yes or no? Just based on his beingness, not his attractiveness level, based on how he's shown up these last 4 days. When she said that, the tension in the room went up 3 notches, right? We were like, are you kidding me? So these women, you know, a lot of times women, giving direct feedback. One of the challenges that I find sometimes with women, they don't want to date because it's not that they're worried about being rejected. They're worried about rejecting the other guy.
Yes.
They don't want to hurt his feelings. And so they won't put themselves out there in large ways. So the women start voting. They go down the line and they're like, yes, no, no, yes, no. And we're taking a tally of the number of yes votes and no votes we have. Finally, they get done. And the facilitator says, all right, gentlemen, I want you to stand up and order yourself from the man who got the most yes votes on this end to the man who gets the most no votes on this end, and show everybody your place in line.
Wow.
So we were like, oh my gosh. So we started ordering ourselves, and when the dust settled, we're all in our spot. I was second to last with the most no votes.
Yeah, I was shocked by that. Anyway, when you told this story, when I first heard this story from you, I was really shocked by that.
Yeah. Well, I was shocked, and this is one of those transformational moments. Like, we ask for feedback is the breakfast of champions. Why I had been single for years was not an accident. It wasn't an accident. I was at the core of the result I was creating. And everyone listening, you are at the center of the result that you are creating. And as you shift how you create with your creator, how you co-create your life, as you begin to shift how you do that, as you begin to shift how you show up, as you begin to shift and become in alignment with what it is that you want, everything outside of you begins to shift. So it was no accident. I thought it was just kind of accident. It was all in God's timing. Maybe just God's timing. I was single. It was like just happening to me. I was in this mindset that some women suck, you know, that's why they're not choosing me. This just life is happening to me. And it wasn't that way at all. Because standing there second to last, I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised because I was like, well, this is what my life has been like for the last 3 years. How am I showing up that in 4 days, these women vote me behind all these other guys? I'm looking at these guys in line. They're like, really? That guy? You're going to vote that guy ahead of me? Really? And so one by one, the facilitator asked if there was anyone who had a question, if he's surprised by where he's standing. And so I was very embarrassed. I raised my hand. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. And I want to know. And so she goes, okay, women, or anyone here would be willing to give Matt the gift of feedback and describe why they voted no on him. And all these hands shot up in the room. They all want to
Oh,
give
wow. They weren't afraid to give the feedback then, eh?
They were like, I want this guy to hear it. So one by one, they stood up and essentially what they said was that they didn't feel like they could connect to the authentic me. That there was something, they just couldn't feel like they could connect to me. And when they said that, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And it struck the chord of truth, just resonated with me. And I was like, wow. And as I began to meditate and explore that, I realized what it was. And ironically, what I wanted most was connection. And I built this belief in my mind that in order to have connection, I needed to be perfect. I needed to be seen as enough. I needed to be seen as capable. I needed to be seen as successful. So I put up this kind of looking good program, wanting to be perfect for others.
Yeah.
And I was so judgmental, so critical of any part of me that wasn't perfect, not willing to accept myself, really, not willing to love myself. I was so critical of all that it created this vibration that was just repelling. Is that women were like, I don't want to be around that. I don't feel like I can really connect to you. You've got this vibration of judgment coming off you anyway. And so I had to do some deep work around what it means to really love myself, what it means to really accept myself. And what I've come to learn is, and just to close the story, when I did that work, it also set me on a journey of figuring out what it is that creates connection and attraction and deep lasting love. And so I drove 12,000 miles around the United States of America, interviewing over 300 couples that had been married over 40 years.
Oh, wow.
For their secrets to what makes love last. And at the end of all of that, my heart was completely shifted. I had learned how to lead from this place of openness, and this place from authenticity, and this place of self-love, which then gave rise to me loving others. And at the last stop on the book tour, I wrote a book about this. Last stop on the book tour, I met my wife. And completely changed how I would have engaged in that interaction. From me in that seminar being voted second to last, I had completely transformed my beingness to one that could really allow love, and then created love. And so we've been married 9 years. We got 3 adorable little kids. My house is crazy all the time, but that's the place to begin. When we say, what can I do to open the doorway to attract love? I invite all the listeners and people watching, if there's a great question to begin is here. What part of me needs my love and acceptance right now? What place in me needs my love and acceptance right now? What is you're asking that to yourself. So I ask you, what place in you needs your love and acceptance right now? And the ability to know that love is bigger than any limiting belief. Love is bigger than any past abuse or trauma. Love is bigger than any self-condemnation or the part of ourselves that we hate. Love is bigger than all of that. And so as you identify the place in you that could really use your love and acceptance, then you surround that in love and acceptance, and you can feel that part of you begin to relax and open. Because Stacey, here is the core of what men are attracted to. Men's deepest psychological need is to be accepted for who they are. Their greatest fear is to feel incompetent in your eyes, to not measure up as a man. And so when a woman can validate her man in a way that's deeper than just what she's verbalizing, in a way that's deeper than just how she's showing up, but through her energy, she validates him by accepting herself so that she can fully accept him. I know we're going deeper than maybe people are used to, but
good. It's what's actually happening is that you're answering all the questions before I ask them, because I was definitely going to ask about your story, because I think your story is really inspirational. As a matter of fact, I listened to the story before signing up for the program, because it was actually 2 programs that I invested in with you, Matt. And when I heard the story the first time, I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to go to a camp. Maybe I need to go and get myself like, rated in the top 50. Like, let me get some feedback, of what's going on. And
well, let me ask you, Stacey, because I don't know if you share this with your audience, but for you, manifesting Marlon, what part of that journey resonated with you? What was the work that you did internally? Because it's always the work we do internally first that then opens the doorway. Now we do need to know the skill sets and things there that really smooth the path for love to find its way. But what was it that you did?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I went back to what I was looking for in a man, and the way that you had us approach that, and then looking at myself and saying, okay, lady, you're looking for all of these things. Where are you in how you relate to yourself in those categories? And boy, Matt, let me tell you, it was like a slap in my face, Okay. I literally was like, okay, so Stacey, you have some work to do on you and accepting me as I was, where I was, who I was choosing to be. That work was major, because I don't know that I spent the time looking at myself towards acceptance. I may have looked towards myself and like, oh my gosh, I have so many scars from all my breast cancer surgeries, or oh my gosh, I have 3 children. Who's going to want me with 3 kids? Like, I would do those things. I work all the time. I like my power. I would look at myself and more criticize or justify,
Yeah.
And not really accept. So acceptance was a huge piece of it. Being able to look at myself in the mirror, some instances naked, because I had that whole body thing going on, and say, I am whole, I'm amazing, I'm beautiful, I am lovable, and forgiving myself for a lot of the negative energy that I had been putting in that space, so that I could break down the brick wall. I was one of the brick wallers around my heart to allow myself to see love differently and to attract love differently.
Let me speak to the objection that someone might have listening to us talk about this in this moment, because there's that objection, and this is where I was, where I'm saying, look, I accept myself. I want this relationship. I don't feel like I'm pushing it away. I'm looking for it everywhere I go. Like, this was me. I was like, if I go to the gym, I'm thinking she might be there. I'm open to this. I'm creating conversations, all of this. But here's the difference. Consciously wanting something is not enough. Our subconscious minds are 10,000 times more powerful than our conscious minds.
Yes.
10,000 times more powerful. So what that means is these hidden subconscious beliefs about, I might get hurt if I let someone in. So in other words, when we have an emotional impact, like something massively painful happens in our life, like a breakup or a betrayal or a loss of someone in our life, that emotional impact gets rooted in the subconscious mind. And it says, what did I associate to this? Well, I had opened myself, I had attracted this relationship, and here's all this pain that resulted from that. If that's your subconscious self-image, if that's a subconscious belief system, it doesn't matter how much conscious desire you have for the relationship. It's like having 1 foot on the gas and 10,000 feet on the brake. Your car's not going anywhere. Right? And so it really does require, when you say doing the work to accept yourself and love yourself, what this is, it's not a conscious thing. What you're doing is you're moving into a feeling vibration of that, which you're getting deep into the subconscious mind, and it's repetition of doing that over and over again. That creates the open doorway for you to allow love in. And that's why where they say, if you stay in your head, you're dead. You can't think yourself out of this subconscious box, right? You have to, it's something that you experience on a visceral, emotional level. And to your point about talking about, so then once you create that opening though, then what happens is you're going to attract someone in your life. You brought up a great point about you want having a list of the things you wanted in your man, but then who did you need to be? What are the corresponding qualities of the woman who attracts a man like that? And so there's something that I think we should talk about, sort of the elephant in the room when it comes to balanced lady bosses.
Okay, let's do it.
Maybe not balanced lady bosses, but definitely lady bosses. And this is it. It's the fear of loss of control.
Yes.
The fear of loss of control.
I still am challenged with that. Less so in my intimate space now, because I've had a lot of support where that is concerned. And I'll actually talk about that in a second, how you actually had to help me over several humps when I almost let this man slip through my fingers, right? Because I wasn't letting go of that control, right? But in other areas, even at work, that control factor is still something I have to actively and intentionally work at.
So here's what's fascinating. When we say loss of control, let's define this. Yes. We're not saying putting yourself in reckless positions.
Right.
We're not saying being unsafe.
Right.
What we're saying is the fear of getting hurt, fear of things not working out, fear of uncertainty will often cause us, and it's not just women, it's men alike, we will grip onto the steering wheel of our love life so tight, white-knuckled, that we don't create room for the relationship to flourish and breathe and grow. And so if you want a man who is masculine, if you want a man to match you at the level of power and intelligence and sophistication and quality that you are, if you want a man who will lead, let's just take that quality. You want a man who will lead. What's the correlating quality that a woman must be if she wants a man who will lead? It's a woman who will follow. If you want a man who will follow, you got to be a woman who will lead, right? Whatever you want, you've got to understand that there's a harmonic vibration that matches that, and it's not always the same, right? If you want a man who's masculine, you don't want to be a woman who's masculine. Those two energies repel each other. Like two positive poles of a magnet, you try to push them together, they repel each other. You flip one around, the positive and the negative poles of those magnets draw one another close. So for me, I never realized that I was very masculine in just my natural state. Football athlete, football player, athlete, leader in business. But when it came to women, my older sister taught me everything I know about women from till I was like teenager. And so she was always telling me how to approach women, but she was giving me what was working for her, which was being feminine. She was like, this works in relationships. See all the guys that like me, you got to do it this way. So I learned to be feminine.
Right.
I learned to sit back and kind of draw a woman to me instead of me be the man and actually pursue her. And it was sabotaging my relationships all through my 20s. It wasn't until I learned the dynamic of masculine and feminine energy that I learned how to step into my masculine, because what I really wanted was a feminine woman, a powerful, strong, smart, feminine woman. Feminine, that term, and masculine have a lot of misconceptions.
Yes.
And so very important for the lady balanced boss ladies to know that it's not weak. It's not submissive. It's not being a doormat. Being feminine is not submissive, not a doormat, not weak, not passive. You can be very active, very strong. In fact, go ahead.
I actually, just to that point, and I really want you to draw that distinction, Matt, because when I did Cracking the Man Code, that was such an eye-opener for me. And the Cracking the Man Code, guys, was what I loved about it was that it's something I could do on my own. It was one of his programs, but it was, kind of a self development where you went through it yourself, organize your time around it, etc. Self-coaching. And I had so many aha moments, even when you talked about just the way we develop, the way we develop from in the womb, and just that whole process of how historically our DNA structure, that like my mind was blown. I was like, Matt, you the boss, because I just felt like I learned so much. And that whole thing about the polarity of our energies that was a big aha for me, because I really had misconceptions about male energy versus female energy. And I did find in that learning that I was exuding a lot of masculine energy, when really I wanted a man to come and just take control. But I kept taking control. So they were like, well, hold on, you know. So go ahead, explain that.
So here's what's interesting as we relate this to business. So masculine energy is energy that is goal oriented, productivity oriented, efficiency. You know, the male mind says, if I can take all the garbage out in one trip versus 5 trips, that's better. If I can stuff all the dishes into one load in the dishwasher, that's better than 2 and 2 loads. Trying to be as cut through the parking lot, get to the movie theater faster, right? As I can be as efficient as possible. Use the least amount of words possible. All of that's very masculine energy. Well, look at the corporate space. Goal-oriented, yes. Productivity, efficiency, profitability, all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But what's fascinating is, and competitive. Masculine energy is very competitive. Masculine energy wants to win. Feminine energy is collaborative. It's working together. Feminine energy is intuitive, where masculine energy will set the vision. Feminine energy receives intuitive guidance to move them forward. So masculine energy is more thrusting outward energy. Feminine energy is more receptive energy. And so you look at how our bodies are even built, yes. Right? It's very similar. But here's what's fascinating. If you look at the most successful business owners, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful leaders, you see all human beings have both masculine and feminine energy. You listening and watching, you have masculine and feminine energy. I have masculine and feminine energy. And when you become conscious of these energies, you can draw from the energy that will serve you in the moment you need it. There are moments where you need to be masculine. There's moments where it serves you to be feminine. And the best leaders, you think about, are the ones who have learned to release control, be guided by their gut feeling, right? Or their intuitive nature, right? They're able to be guided in that way. They set the vision for their team. They release control. They teach people to work together, and then they set their teams forth to achieve a common objective. So they have very good balanced masculine and feminine energy. Often you get low-level business owners, low-level success. The people can achieve good success, but not like super high levels of success by just running one energy. They're either just running femininity or they just run their masculine energy, and it caps out. But the people who have learned to draw from each are the ones who go high. And in a relationship, the same is true. So you as a businesswoman, knowing how to put on the masculine energy where it serves you, in the moments of business it serves you, then coming into your relationship and learning how to shift, if the moment calls for it, into your feminine, and when you do that, just like a magnet draws unto it the opposing vibration, as you shift into your feminine energy, you draw your man into his masculine. And that requires courage. Yes. It requires the woman. Let me give you an example. When my wife and I just started dating, she would hesitate to call me, and she would let me call her. This is early in the dating process. We weren't established. We weren't like exclusive. We were courting each other, right? And so the first few weeks, like I call her, and then I would get busy with work and whatnot. I wouldn't call her for a few days. And then I'd call her up and she'd be like, hey, it's great to talk to you, this and that. Months later, maybe a year later, she told me how hard it was for her to not pick up the phone and call me. She was like, no, I'm going to let him set the pace. I'm going to let him lead.
Oh my gosh.
I remember there would be days when the whole day would go by and she didn't call or text. And I'd be like, I miss her. Like, I miss her. What she was doing is she was creating a space for me to identify how I actually felt about her, so that my actions then reinforced my own attraction for her. This is key. For a man to understand how he feels, his actions must be a reflection of those feelings that anchors his own commitment for you. Mm-hmm. If he's just responding to you reaching out early in the dating process, in the courting phase, if he's just like picking up the phone because you called him, it's a more of ambiguous, that type of behavior is ambiguous in terms of, well, am I just responding to her affection for me, or am I responding to my affection for her? And so when you create space, feminine energy is all about creating space for the masculine energy to move into. So when you create space for him to call, you create space for him to text, you create space for him to leave. I took my then girlfriend, my wife, out on a date. Picked her up at the house. Now I'm still navigating masculine and feminine energy. I was still kind of learning this. And so I picked her up and I was like, I told her I'll take you out on Saturday, pick you up at 6, showed up to her house. And I was like, all right. Now she, just so you know, she lived in California. I lived in Oregon. So I was having business in California. I said, hey, I'm going to be down there. I didn't know her town. I didn't know that area. So I pick her up and I'm like, so where do you want to go? I'll take you anywhere you want to go. And she was like, you don't know where you're taking me? And I was like, well, I don't live here. This isn't my town. This is your town. So you tell me where you want to go. And she's like, no, you're the man.
Oh, wow.
We're going. And it was the first time in my life I had ever had a woman say that to me, because I dated type A women. They'd be like, oh, we're going to go here. And they'd already had it set up. I said, she saw me starting to sweat. I was like, fumbling my phone out. I'm like, okay, where are we going? And she's like, I've got Yelp up. I'm trying to find where we're going. And she was like, hey, look, I'll help you. I like sushi and I like Italian. I'll be thrilled with either of those options. And so I quickly found a sushi place. I was like, how about this spot? And she goes, that sounds great. And I said, okay, I'm taking you there. And here's what's great. My own sense. You want to turn on your man. You want to give your man a boost of attraction chemicals for you. Let him plan the date and risk. Because now I picked that spot. I was way more attached to, does she like this spot? Because I picked it.
Right.
Was if she had picked it. I'm just going to take her to some place I already know she likes. There's a greater risk involved. And one of the chemicals in a man that stimulates this attraction is dopamine. Dopamine gets triggered when we're risking. Just taking a small risk triggers our dopamine. So I felt my nerves a little higher. I felt my intensity a little more. I was like, okay, well, how is this place? What does it look like? You know, you show up to a restaurant you've never been. You're like, I hope it's good. You know, does the atmosphere look like the pictures? I don't know. Do you show up? And it was a great spot. And she loved the sushi. My whole sense of attraction and payoff from making that decision was sky high. Why? Because she released control. And she said, I'm going to stand firm in my feminine. She was direct. She goes, you're the man. You pick where we're going. And she gave me the gift of leading in that moment.
Wow. No, that's so good. Can I just tell you that in you're telling all the different stories of things that we do that will, you know, repel the masculine energy, repel a man or not attract the person. I made all those mistakes. Like I could just literally check off all the different things that I was doing that was not helping me, even though I was just, you know, like, yes, I'm out here, I'm interested, I'm seeking a love life partner. I was definitely not allowing myself to receive the gifts that a man brings. You know, as a matter of fact, I remember that I had to go through a bit of training almost when I started dating Marlon, because he is the extremely nice, polite gentleman. And I'll open my own door. Like, you're taking too long to come around to my side of the car. Like, I mean, you know, and he had to talk to me about it, because one of the things that also came up out of the back and forth with me allowing space to be served, right? Because we think of control in just, you know, me wanting to feel secure and wanting to know that everything's going to work out, but we also limit the ability to receive service. And what I saw happening was that as I started to allow service to enter my space through my new partner, I noticed my girls, my daughters, not doing the same thing. They'd look at me like, why you gotta wait for him to open the door? So they were literally following in the same path that I had kind of been teaching them. So that's one of the things that came out that was so important, is that you're, you know, especially if you're a mother, a single mom that is, you know, high powered or professional or hardworking, and you have girls or even boys, like, you are an example for how they are going to relate in the same love space. So that was a big learning and takeaway for me as well, Matt. So.
And I want to speak to the objection that people might think, well, does that mean I could never plan a date or I can never lead or any of that? And the answer is no, of course you can. And there are phases where it's much more important to establish the dynamic of the attraction. And that is in the courting phase, in the beginning of the relationship. The more that you can create that space for him by anchoring, standing in your powerful feminine energy, letting him move and serve you where you're receiving his service. I love the way you said that. The more attraction that's created. Then as you get into the commitment phase of the relationship, you can share. It might be someplace you take him out one week, but sharing is important. If you find that you're always the one planning and then you start complaining about the fact he doesn't plan, look at your timing. Because often what will happen is the timing for when you want the plan to occur because of control. You're like, I need to know what we're doing on Saturday night by Wednesday. I got to know by Wednesday what we're doing. Or I can't relax. Well, why? That's a control thing. Can you trust your man to provide a good experience? One of the most powerful things a woman can do is to sit back and say, honey, I trust you. We're going out Saturday night, wherever you want to go. I trust you. Take me someplace great. And then for you to say, all I need to know is what I should be wearing. Should I be putting some warm clothes on? We could be outside, or what should I wear? Just tell me that, but I don't need to know the rest. That is so powerful for a man. So powerful, man. Notice how often you give your man driving directions, for example. Like if he's like, hey, honey, there's a parking spot right there. Go ahead and park right there. What is that? See, what happens is, and here's what's happened. Women, you feel like you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it out of generosity. Your goal is to make the world a better place. Your mothers, your women, you're great. You make the world a better place. Just know this, when it's your man, it's not contribution to him. It is unsolicited advice. What it's communicating is that you don't trust that he can really do it. So you got to step in and control it.
Yeah.
And it subtly erodes away at the connection. One of the greatest things you could do, I was like, my wife took this to an extreme. We were driving, flying down the highway. We're going to go to her parents' house, and I'm telling her a story, and I'm talking and this and that. And a minute goes by, and I look, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally missed the exit. And my wife goes, I know, I saw you fly by it like 3 miles ago. And I was like, why didn't you say anything? And she was like, I trusted that you know where you were going.
Oh.
And in that moment, well, I didn't know where I was going. It was a total mistake. What she gave me in that moment was such this feeling of confidence, this feeling of like she raised me up in that moment. And what did it cost? What did that level of connection and that feeling of being raised up and that deep level of love, what did it cost? What did she have to sacrifice to gain that? 7 minutes of detour? It cost 7 minutes.
Conversation with you. It's not like she was just, suffering along the way. She was engaged in conversation with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I was like that, as I began to analyze that, I told her later, I was like, you can let me know if I've missed the exit. If I missed the exit, you can let me know. Okay. And she laughed and she's like, you got it. Okay. But I often think about how often we will try to get things right or try to control things without really knowing the greater cost. Yeah, we may have saved 7 minutes, but what does it cost? Cost that trust, cost that connection, cost that. There are choices that we can make that uplift and empower one another, that are in beautiful ways, that are that end up being stories that we tell for decades because of how meaningful it was. And you, as the woman in the relationship, have incredible power to lift your man up. You have incredible power to be able to develop connection. You have incredible power. And you will find that as you learn to empower him, because of the power you have, you can empower him in ways that make both of your lives even easier and more loving.
Wow. No, that's just, oh, wow. Yeah, I'm ready. I can't wait till he gets home so I can make him feel empowered, which is just, oh, you just hit the nail on the head there, Matt. I think with the struggle that a lot of us, we call about being on the struggle bus in the relationship space, we oftentimes are not necessarily allowing ourselves to see what's possible, what opportunities exist, And so just to wrap up here, because I know that we're at the top of the hour, I want to kind of encapsulate a lot of the conversation that we've had today, because we've gotten so many amazing gems that can be shared with the listeners and the persons who are going to be watching this video. In the space of bliss and being able to access, you know, self-care and self-love, how do you find that that plays into being able to create a loving relationship? And what advice would you give, based on just the experience that you've had with different women, what advice would you give us on how to make sure that we're nurturing ourselves, on bringing the best of ourselves to, whether you're single or you're in a relationship with somebody? How do we bring the best of ourselves to that space?
Begin to notice what you're noticing. Notice what you're noticing. In other words, we can often go through our lives noticing that we ride around right here in our cognitive space, right? And we kind of move through we're thinking about plans for later. We're thinking about jobs, our job. We're thinking about tasks we have to do. And notice kind of where you're riding around. And then when you notice that, notice, where am I riding today in my body? It's a great question to ask yourself several times throughout the day. Where am I in my body? And oftentimes we'll be right here. Well, the cognitive space is masculine energy. Heart-centered is feminine energy. So then drop down and bring your awareness right to the center of your heart. And notice how you're feeling. And then when you begin to notice how you're feeling, you can begin to notice what are the things that light you up and help you feel expansive and give lightness and ease. What are the thoughts that are more expansive? What are the thoughts that bring love? What are the thoughts that bring joy and positive energy versus what are the thoughts that bring constriction and tightness and sadness and those things? So as you notice what you're noticing, notice where you are in your body. If you're not in your heart, drop into your heart and then ask yourself, what am I needing right now to feel more expansive? What do I need in this moment to feel more positive? And then let your body speak to you. Just that move alone changes our lives.
No, that's so good. And it's actually something that I have been doing, but not with the context that I'm noticing what I'm noticing. It's more, I think about it as self-observation, intentional self-observation. So that's kind of, but I like the term notice what you're noticing, because then you can actually be present to how your body is responding to all the different things that are moving through you, and, you know, thoughts, emotions, etc. Love it. Thank you. So Matt, I'm going to just close off here. I could talk to you for several more hours. But I think we got some amazing gems, lots of really useful advice that our ladies can definitely take on. Certainly things that they can think about in terms of how they're showing up for themselves as individuals if they're single. And if you're in a relationship, you know, what things you could be doing or not doing to really support that space. So thank you for joining the show. Any parting words?
Yeah, the last thing that I would just remind all of the listeners is if you're in a relationship and you want to take it deeper and you have that longing for it to be even closer, or you're not in the relationship and you've got that longing, that feeling to be in partnership, know this: the feeling that you have for that partnership, the feeling that you have for things to be deeper, is evidence that it's possible. You wouldn't even be able to have the feeling of the desire if your man wasn't out there. You wouldn't even be able to have that feeling for that deeper connection if that possibility wasn't real for you. So believe that is the way the universe works, is the desire you have is the counterpoint of his desire for you. So know he's out there, he's looking for you just the way you're looking for him. And as you open up and make that welcome, it will happen faster than you even know.
Excellent. Lovely. Thank you so much, Matt. All the information about Matt and his programs will be available in the show notes or in the description below our interview. And I also want to make well known that his YouTube videos are amazing, and it's the easiest place to find him on YouTube. Matt, M-A-T, 1T, B-O-G-G-S. He's also on Instagram and Facebook. and his programs are all available virtually. So you can hop into it right now. You don't have to worry about traveling anywhere immediately. And I can only say that from someone that has participated in his programs and received direct coaching support from him, I'm highly, highly recommended that you check him out. So thanks so much again, Matt. And thanks, ladies, for listening to another episode of the Balanced Lady Boss Show.